This morning, a brand new controversy involving President Trump, Russia, and the press, this time over a New York Times report that the U.S. government is ramping up cyber attacks on Russia's power grid. The Times notes in the story that the president has not been briefed in detail about the efforts because of broad concerns he might countermand it or discuss it with foreign officials. Overnight, the president tweeted the story is, quote, not true, and he accused the New York Times of, quote, a virtual act of treason, which is an odd charge. The story isn't accurate. But beyond that, of course, it's, of course, chilling for the president of the United States to accuse the free press of treason. The New York Times released a statement saying, quote, accusing the press of treason is dangerous. We described the article to the government before publication. As our story notes, President Trump's own national security officials said there were no concerns, unquote. This caps off a week dominated by new fears about the security of the 2020 election after President Trump said this in an interview with ABC News.
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening. If somebody called from a country, Norway, we have information on your opponent. Oh, I think I'd want to hear it.
The comments drew criticism from Democrats and Republicans in a stern statement from the chairwoman of the Federal Elections Commission, who is a Democrat. On Friday, the president tried to clean up his comments, saying in another interview, quote, of course you give it to the FBI. But the president's remarks drew harsh condemnation from those who also might be the subjects of information from foreign governments, the president's opponents in the 2020 presidential race. And joining me now is South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Mayor Buttigieg, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
So the biggest news of the week, arguably President Trump's remarkable comment in his ABC News interview saying that he would theoretically be willing to accept help from foreign governments in the 2020 election, wouldn't necessarily go to the FBI. He's since tried to walk back a bunch of his stuff. But what was your response when you heard him say that?
It's both unbelievable and all too believable. It is morally wrong, legally wrong, politically wrong. You don't accept help from foreign governments, especially at a moment when America is reeling from the fact that our democracy was successfully attacked and interfered with in the last election by a hostile foreign power. If you get an offer of material help from a foreign government, you call the FBI. This shouldn't be difficult. This shouldn't be complicated.
Your fellow 2020 Democrat, your opponent, Senator said this week that if she is elected president, her Justice Department would have no choice but to go forward with obstruction of justice charges against President Trump. Would the Justice Department under a President Buttigieg feel the same way, do the same thing?
My Justice Department will be empowered to reach its own conclusions. Two things are true and clear. One, nobody is above the law. And two, the prosecutorial process should have nothing to do with politics. The less this has to do with the president, the better. Right now, we have a president who seems to think that the president can just dictate what the DOJ is going to do, call for political opponents to be jailed. I believe that the rule of law will catch up to this president. It doesn't require the Oval Office putting any kind of thumb on the scale. I trust the DOJ to reach the right determinations, at least the DOJ that I would appoint and set up. And the less that has to do with directives coming out of the White House, the better.
Sounds like you have an issue with Senator Kamala Harris saying that.
Well, I'm just speaking to how I view the issue. But again, I think we can maintain these two principles, that nobody is above the law and that prosecution decisions should have nothing to do with politics and should come from the DOJ itself, not from the Oval.
Let's turn to Iran. The United States is blaming Iran for an attack on two tankers in the Gulf of Oman this week.